Om Shri Ganeshaya Namaha. Om Shri Saraswatyai Namaha. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Om Ramaya Ramabhadraya Ramachandraya Vedhase Raghunathaya Nathaya Sitaya Pataye Namaha. Atulita Baladhamam Hemashailaabhadeham Danujavana Krishanum Jnaninaamagraganyam Sakala Gunanidhanam Vanaranamadhisham Raghupati Priya Bhaktam Vatajatam Namami. Raghupati Priya Bhaktam Vatajatam Namami. Om Shri Hanumate Namaha. Om Chinmayam Vyapiyat Sarvam Trailokyam Sacharacharam Tatpadam Darshitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Om Shri Chinmaya Sadgurave Namaha. Namastulasi Dasa Sadvaristhaya Dhimate Puritam Hridayam Yena Ramah Premamrite Name. Om Shri Tulsi Dasaya Namaha. Hari Om. A warm welcome to the second day's session. We will start with Nam Sankirtan for a minute. Please join. Shri Ram Jaya Ram Jaya Jaya Ram. 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 Jaya Jaya Ram Jaya Jaya Ram. Yesterday, we just introduced the topic when we said 4 pillars actually are the most important factors that hold our Sanatana Dharma. And what are they? Shruti, Smriti, Itihasa and Purana. Shruti Vakya are abstract and very difficult, very high in its caliber. Therefore, a common man like you and me will see it very difficult, will feel it very difficult to understand and grasp that higher knowledge. It is like a primary school child trying to understand a PhD subject. And we all also know it was transferred to the Shishya verbally, Shravana Matrena and then Guru Vakyena. So, Shruti Vakya were coming down, which was heard, which was revealed to them by the Bhagavan himself. There were no books. What was heard and remembered, the gurus transferred to the Shishya, and then all of them, considering the later generations, Vedavyasi brought them together and gave us in the form of 4 Vedas, Rig, Yajus, Sama and Atharvana Veda. Now, however, Vedavyasi must have thought, it is so difficult even to understand those Vedas. They are all very high statements. And then he wrote the Panchama Veda Mahabharata. And we also know the story as to how the Ramayan came up. It was first narrated by Bhagavan Shivji to Parvati ji. Later, Narada Mahamuni gave it to Ratnakara, who was given the right knowledge by Narada and was made into Valmiki. And that particular version of Naradji giving to Valmiki ji the knowledge of Ramayan is called Moola Ramayan. Ramayan and Mahabharata both are called Itihasa. What does that mean? Itihasa means so it happened. Itihasa. But actually, the meaning goes as history. But this is only these two, Ramayana and Mahabharata, only these two are called as Itihasa. While history, we have got so many. When you open the, what do you call it as Pandora box, if we may say so. And what is the difference between history, which is otherwise called Mahakavya, and epic, which is called Itihasa? We will see. First of all, history is Ghatana Pradana and Itihasa is Dharma Pradana. A huge difference between the two. And remember, Itihasa is also Ghatana. It also happened, but it has got an added advantage of Dharma in it. When we say history, it is a chronological order of events, people and places. And all of them are very limited in its content. It just limits to one particular person or a few particular people at a particular given period of time. And honestly speaking, this limited information are forgotten long back. How much true it is, all of us have studied in our school days. Pulikeshi, Vikramaditya, Krishna Raja Vadayar in Mysore, etc., etc. We may also say Jhansi Rani Lakshmi Bai, Haidar Ali, now the controversial personality Tippu Sultan. All these are history. How much do we remember? We studied for the sake of vomiting. We in fact mugged it up for the sake of vomiting in the examination paper. The student who has written the examination of history and who might have written very well, even the moment he comes out, within 10 minutes time, you give him the same paper again, he may not be able to write it so well what he himself has written 10 minutes before. Think. Unless somebody has got a great love for that subject, it is long forgotten. And generally, history is only restricted to mankind. The documentation is of the mankind only. Certain incidences are brought out. Now look at Itihasa. First and foremost, it no doubt documents reports of the chronological order of events, places and persons. It also adds to it. Now please be attentive. It also adds to it values, morals, ethics, and are depicted in such a format where you and I, by just seeing those stories, by hearing those stories, listening to those stories, we will find we can imbibe those qualities. There is something which is a takeaway in the modern language. What is a takeaway? It's just not the time. It is just not the order of events. But along with that, we will find that we have so much to learn, so much to accept, abide. And we will find, thus we become a nobler person, a better person in our life. The quality and texture of thoughts takes a transformation. And though for the modern era, it may appear false. What? Ramayan, Mahabharata. Did it actually happen? It was written as a katha by someone. It actually did not happen. These are certain statements which are very, very, very irresponsible. So many of us make so many statements where we have no knowledge about it. But just because it is convenient, it is called as what? Anukula bhashya. Because it is convenient. How it is convenient? I can evade it. Think. It is not so. Even though it is history, even though it has happened, it is so very important for our life, for our transformation, inner transformation. Think. And very importantly, it may appear false. Why? It is because thousands of years ago it has happened. Thousands of years ago. Ramayan, for example. Bhagavan Sri Ramchandraji was born in 5114th BC, it is said. Again, I don't know. It is all knowledge given out. It is there in our Shastras. You and I have not seen, may not have seen, because we are not contemporaries. But while history is written by a contemporary, documented by a contemporary, Ramayan and Mahabharata also have been written and recorded by a contemporary of Sri Ramchandraji, who is Valmiki ji. Therefore, Samakalinaha, when they write, it becomes a document and it becomes a valid document. Therefore, if Valmiki ji himself has written Ramayan, it is a valid document because he lived while Rama was alive. He documented all that happened in Ramayan, in the time at the time of Rama. In fact, there is one more which is said. Maharshi Narada, he could visualize the entire Ramayan with their tapashakti. Anything can happen. Anything is possible. With this tapashakti, he visualized the entire Ramayan and he transferred that knowledge to Valmiki ji and he said, now you write, document it. And thus came the great epic Valmiki Ramayan. As I said, remember, Itihasa gives us guidelines. Itihasa gives us the knowledge. When we learn, our life becomes better. Whereas in history, it is only an objective knowledge, whereas Itihasa gives us subjective knowledge. That is why Itihasas are great. That is why only Ramayana and Mahabharata can be called as Itihasa. All other stories cannot be called as Itihasa. With this, we also find a very interesting point in Itihasa. What is that? The stories which we see, both Mahabharata and Ramayan, from now I will restrict myself to Ramayan, but it also almost includes both of them. In Ramayan you will find all those incidences, all those events that takes place. Somewhere or other it matches our life also. We also come to experience that very the situations which we find in Ramayan, and those situations relate to our life too, and therefore we can adapt ourselves to it, and we can also find ourselves in that very situation. And therefore it becomes very close to our heart. Why? Hey, this happened in my life also. It has happened there also. How did he tackle that issue? How did he face that challenge? Becomes a very important issue. That is why, even though this has happened 7,000 and odd years before, even today it is relevant. Why it is relevant? Because it matches my lifestyle. Think. It gives a solution to my problems. It gives a direction to my thinking. And definitely, when I follow those instructions, I can reach that supreme. That confidence, think, is available in our Itihasa. And then I had made a mention yesterday about Puranas. One is, Puranas describe the glories of Bhagavan. And it narrates the stories of Bhagavan. Stories of Bhagavan meaning what? Stories we may also mistake. We may as well say Leelas of Bhagavan, which actually has happened. It gives us it narrates the stories of Bhagavan. Not only that, through describing the glories, through narrating the Leelas of Bhagavan, it brings in a deep sense of love towards Bhagavan. You know something? Our knowledge must always be filled with love. It need not always be only with the head. It need not be always dry intelligence. In fact, many times, dry intelligence approach may bring in lot of ego in it. But when it is merged, when it is added, when it is sweetened with love towards Bhagavan, then that very knowledge becomes so beautiful. The very understanding brings so much of joy. Therefore, it brings in and develops a deep sense of love towards Bhagavan, a sense of intimacy towards Bhagavan, a sense of being with Bhagavan, as though we live with Bhagavan. And finally, while all this is happening, through the stories, through the Leelas, it instills in us those ethical and moral values, by which I can, as I said earlier, enrich our life. What do we mean by enriching our life? By changing, molding, modifying, tuning, transforming our quality and texture of thoughts, which is more nobler than before. And day by day, I become nobler and nobler, and then finally I'll find myself as a noblest person. Meaning what? My mind becomes purified. With that pure mind, one can easily gain the knowledge of the Supreme. Thus, Itihasa and Purana relates comfortably with the common man like you and me, And thereby it can uplift our life. And when all of us uplift our life, become nobler in the society also changes, the community also changes, and the world is a beautiful place to live in. We make the world. World is not confused. World is not corrupted. World is not wrong or terrible. We make the world. Therefore, if the world has to be comfortable, if the world has to be beautiful, if the world has to be convenient for us to live in, we need to change our attitudes. Thus, by modifying our attitudes, by transforming our personality, we will find we see the same world differently, and we can use the same world again to gain more knowledge. Think. Thus, Purana and Itihasa both are a great teacher of what? Yesterday I had made a small mention. Itihasa Puranabhyam Vedartham Upabrahmayeti, it is said. Itihasa and Purana actually establishes the knowledge that were given in the Vedas, in the Shrutis, which we directly cannot comprehend them, but through Itihasa and Purana, the same Veda Artha can be imbibed, can be understood, can be grasped comfortably, more with joy. Why? Because of its quality of presenting. Then, the main two difference. The Vedas, Shruti, are instruction based. Upadesha, Prabhuvakya, they give commandments. This is how it should do. Do this. But sometimes we don't like commandments, you see. At least in the modern era, we don't like commandments. Therefore, we want something different. 1. 2. Sometimes the instructions given by the Vedas, our limited mind cannot catch it. Our mind cannot comprehend. We require something more so that I can understand. Is it not? Puranas and Itihasas bring in front of us a role model, a live demonstration. Demonstration of what? Of the same values, of the same knowledge of the Shrutis in a role model. And thus here in Ramayan you find, and even in Mahabharata we will find, every aspect which we have to imbibe are given a character. And in fact, every aspect which we are not supposed to imbibe are also presented as a character. Think. And there are very interesting points in Itihasa. There are characters where you have to imbibe certain qualities of the character, and there are certain parts of the same character which we are not supposed to imbibe. In one single role model, we will find that which we are ought to gain, and other which we must not gain, which we must not follow. So, following few and not following few, both are depicted. One example is of Ravana in Ramayan. Ravana is a great Shiva Bhakta, Sakala Shastra Vidwan, Sarva Veda Panditaha, and he knew everything. And what is his strength? The Tapas Shakti. Think. The perseverance, commitment, power, valor, these are all we must gain. And there are qualities of Ravana which we will see, which we are not supposed to take. Therefore, these two gives us or presents to us a demonstration of the knowledge of the Supreme, spoke in Vedas and gives us such wonderful opportunities whereby I gain the knowledge, accept the knowledge, understand the knowledge, assimilate the knowledge, and abide in it. Such beautiful, qualities these Itihasa and Purana has got. Having said that, we also find, while Vedanta is being talked about, we have to listen to it with extreme concentration. Whereas, when we listen to Itihasa, we will find the same Itihasa, the knowledge what we have heard, listened to. It has a long-lasting impact when compared to Shruti. Why is this? Because as of now, our mind is not as pure. When our mind becomes pure, then Vedas will remain. The knowledge of the Vedas will remain with us. It will long last. It is nothing but talking about our own Atma. Therefore, it has to remain with us. But because of the distractions which we have, our mind is unable to retain that knowledge when it is given in pure form. Therefore, the demonstrations, the examples, a role model becomes easier for us, and that role model lasts long in our memory. And whenever we are dealing with some situations, the role models comes into our mind. The remembrance of those role models gives us a path to tackle those situations. Therefore, Itihasas play a vital role, and through that, our attitudes, our quality and texture of thoughts are beautifully integrated and guided towards our future activities. This we can see in our simple examples, yesterday also I had mentioned. Children enjoy reading Amar Chitrakatha, Chanda Mama, Tinkle, Ityadi. Why? They are all depicted. Today we have, what is that? Earlier we had Oxford Dictionary. Today they have improvised on that and illustrated Oxford Dictionary. What is that illustrated? A picture is given. Child, A. How do I remember A? A for apple. An apple is presented. So when the mother says, this is apple, then the child says, A for apple. Think. To understand that letter A, one picture is depicted. Think. This depiction of picture becomes easier for the child to grasp that letter. Similarly, depiction, role model is always wonderful for us to retain the knowledge of the Supreme. Having said that, we will now take up the next level of how important and what exactly is Ramayana. All these are very important, because before learning Ramayana, if we don't understand the importance and the glory of Ramayana, we will not take it so seriously. Therefore, we will take this up tomorrow. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om.